Okay, hello again. I'm Miss Awinop, your grade 10 maths teacher. Okay, in our last lesson, we looked at angles of elevation and depression. Today, we are going to look at bearings. Okay, bearings. Now, what are bearings? Bearings are used to give direction to a location. Okay, we're using the angles. All right, using angles. Now, there are two methods of giving bearings. Those two methods are, one, we have compass bearings. Okay, compass bearings, I believe you are more familiar with. They are also known as conventional bearings. Okay, so compass bearings use the directions north, south, east, and west. Okay, so an example of a compass bearing would be, say, north 20 degrees east, or another one would be south 40 degrees west. Okay, so direction is given in terms of being east or west of the two focal points here. Okay, or the two main directions. We can either be east of north or west of north, or we can be east of south or west of south. Okay. The second method of reading or giving a bearing is known as the true bearing. Okay. True bearing. A true bearing gives bearing as only an angle, all right? An angle that is read from north, okay? Let's say we have north here, again, south, east, and west. A true bearing is given as an angle read from true north in a clockwise direction, okay? So, a true bearing can look like 0.45 degrees, all right? Another term used to describe true bearing is a three-figure bearing, an angle always given in three figures. So 0.45 degrees, or we can have 215 degrees, okay? Now, what is the relationship between the compass bearings and the true bearings? Let's have a look at our compass rose here, and let's see how we can, or what the relationship is. Okay. We have north, east, south, west. Not the elephant squirt water. That's one way you can remember this. Okay. So in between these directions, we have other directions here, and you've already learned some of this in social science, so you should know that the direction between north and east is northeast. The direction between south and east is southeast. The direction between south and west is southwest. And the direction between north and west is northwest. Okay? Now, your compass is made up of 4 quadrants, 1, 2, 3, 4, which true bearing uses the angles here. Okay? So at north, this is 0 degrees T. Now, T indicates true north, okay? Northeast is measured at 45 degrees T. Okay? East would be, and you should already see here, 90 degrees. Okay? Southeast would be 135. Okay, T. South, straight line, so this is 180 degrees. Southwest would be 225 degrees. Okay. West, 270 degrees T, and northwest would be 315 degrees T. Okay? Now, whenever you see a bearing written as 3 figures, you know that this is a true bearing. Okay? You know that it's a true bearing, and its relationship to the compass is indicated here as angles. All right? Now, keep this at the back of your mind, because when we start reading our compass, this is important. Okay? Now, we're going to go through a couple of examples to show how we read the compass using your true bearing and your conventional bearing. Okay? Now, let's have a look at these examples. Example number 1. Here, that gives us a direction, and we must give the bearing using both methods. Okay? So, we have north, south, east, and west. Okay? We have a direction here with the angle given as 45 degrees. Okay? 45 degrees. Now, a true bearing uses the focal points. A conventional bearing uses the focal points north and south. So looking at the angle, it is 45 degrees between south and east. So we write this as a conventional bearing. We are going to say it is south, all right, 45 degrees toward the east. Okay, so that's your conventional bearing, using the angle 45 degrees going toward the east. Okay, now when we are looking at the true bearing always starts at the north. So we come from up here in a clockwise direction to this point here. Okay, so how are we going to find that angle? We come back to this diagram, and you can relate this here so that we can find the angle used to give true bearing. Okay, so we have 90 degrees here already, and we need to find this angle here. Okay, this angle here, we already know that this quadrant is 90. Okay, so 90 minus this 45 here will give us 45 degrees. Okay, so 90, this is also 45 degrees. So our true bearing, okay, true bearing will be 90 plus 45 degrees, okay, which is here on our diagram already given. So it's 135 degrees T, indicating that we've started at the true north. Okay, now let's have a look at another example. Let's see how this one will look. Okay, we have again, let's draw our compass. All right, north, south, east, and west. Now this time, our angle is here. All right, and let's say this is 53 degrees. 53 degrees, okay? Now, true bearing will be reading from here, but let's give our conventional bearing first, okay? Now, again, this angle is closest to the focal point of south, so we will write south first, okay? And the angle 53 degrees going towards the west, okay? So compass bearing is south 53 degrees west, okay? Now true bearing, always remember the rule. Start at the north and go in a clockwise direction. So we will start here, turn all the way up to that point, okay? Now, you always go back to this so it helps you. How many degrees have I covered here to get to this point? Okay, right. From north to east, that's 90 degrees. From east to south, I have another 90 degrees. Okay, and I cover this angle of 53 degrees as well. So, true bearing would be 90 plus 90 degrees plus 53 degrees, which gives me a total of 233 degrees T. Okay, so that's the bearing as true bearing. Conventional, south 53 degrees west, and true bearing from north is 233 degrees. Okay, now we'll look at one more example. Okay. Example number 3. Again, given a compass. All right. North, south, east, and west. Now, this time, we'll put the direction up here. Okay. And this angle will be 34 degrees. All right, 34 degrees. Now, as a conventional bearing, quite easy. It is north, 34 degrees toward your west. Okay, so north 34 degrees west. Now, true bearing. This is where we are going to cover quite a lot of angles here. Look at how far we've gone. Okay. Now, we have covered how many degrees to get to this point here? We have 90 plus 90 plus another 90, and this angle here is 90 minus 34, which is going to be 56 degrees. 56 degrees, okay? So, to find true bearing, we add 90 plus 90 plus 90, all right, plus that 56 degrees here, okay, which will give us a total of 326 degrees T, okay? Now, you can also do subtraction, which may be a little bit more easier, okay? And for some of you, you've probably noticed this as well. Instead of adding all the angles I have covered, I can simply subtract 34 degrees from 360 minus, okay, 34 degrees, which will also give me 326 degrees. Okay, now, if you go back to example number 1, that method could have been used as well. But instead of 360, we have 180. So 180 minus 45, which would have given us 135 degrees. Okay? Now, reading off the compass is what we have done for this segment of the lesson. In our next segment, we are going to put the bearings onto a compass rose. Okay, so that should be fun. I'll meet you again in our next segment.